department would take care of entering all of the invoices into the system and getting the check number and sending everything to the treasurer's office to cut the bills.
Okay, so the deputy clerk is doing a majority of the accounts payable.
Is doing the processing of the accounts payable, yes.
In addition to any deputy clerk duties that person has.
Correct.
Okay, and how well does that seem to work well for your county?
It does. The finance department and the county clerk's office, we actually share a suite here at our courthouse. So we're actually within like talking distance of the staff. So it works well. Our deputy county clerk, if she has any questions when she's processing those bills, she'll come and ask me, you know, whether an account number looks out of ordinary or something's not working correctly, or if she just needs additional information to process that bill. And then like myself or our county administrator, we are the people that are actually signing off on the disbursement journal, allowing those payments to be released. And we do review what payments are going out.
Okay. Do you have other financial positions within like HHS for people that are processing like the Medicare insurance and Medicaid, you know, all of those kind of billing type things?
So we are actually, we're a social service agency. So we don't have mental health. Unified Community Services acts as our mental health department for Iowa County and for Grant County as well. But we do have a position in social services that's currently, it's called the social service secretary, but we are looking at just changing the title to an accountant specialist. That person actually does do their voucher jackets for their accounts payable and keys all of that into our financial software with the director or the business manager reviewing and signing the actual vouchers themselves. And then that person does for the children's long-term support program. We do have to do billing to WPS. We have authorizations that we have to do. That's a Medicaid program. So that person also takes care of that part of any billing per se that we would have to do from our county.
And who processes your payroll and does your payroll and benefits?
So our payroll is actually processed in the finance department. One of the accountant specialists under me processes the payroll. I'm the backup to that process. For the benefits, we have an employee relations director who takes care of enrolling employees into their benefits. She works directly with our benefits vendors. She provides us with a database every payroll that we use to cross-check to make sure that we're withholding the correct amounts from everyone's paycheck and that we have them, the correct benefits with them. So we work very close with our employee relations department when it comes to employee benefits.
Okay. So just to make sure I have my notes right. So you have one account specialist right now, but you're hiring another one. So you'll have two account specialists, and then you supervise two business managers, one at the nursing home and one at Highway.
Correct.
And that's the extent of who you supervise. And then you have the accounts payable, some accounts payable duties happening in the county clerk's office through the deputy clerk. And then you also interact with the benefits, whatever, I don't remember what you called that department.
Our employee relations.
There you go. Does that summarize it accurately?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do any other committee members have questions for Ms. Gold?
So what is the total count? I guess I'm looking for the total
1,
count.
2, 3, 4. There's 4 under your direct supervision, right? And then the additional accounts payable role of the deputy county clerk, who's not supervised by. right? They're supervised by the clerk.
So right now, there's technically 3 under my direct supervision, will be 4 this fall. And then the county clerk, the deputy county clerk, I don't per se, I would say kind of a little bit of indirect supervision there. The business manager at social services is an indirect supervision
Right. Okay,
as well.
okay. Any other questions from the committee members?
This is Bob. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this real quick. Just give me just a moment. Doing some
Yeah, I had an
totals here.
advantage. I had a little bit of an advantage because I kind of knew some of this coming into it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, how many? Hang on a second. Right, so you have 2 indirect supervisions. Does all your financing software? Let me back up. The people that are doing the vouchers, you say they're entering that key and that information into your financial system. Are they all in the same system?
Yes.
The person doing your payroll, does all the payroll come in the same, or does they send it in by an Excel sheet? How are they getting the payroll to the financial accountant? Is that correct?
It, into the accountant specialist. Okay, so payroll is actually, we have at our nursing home, they have their own time clock software.
Okay.
They, all the employees there punch a time clock every day. And then at the end of the pay period, their business manager at the nursing home will review all of the payroll. And then we actually interface it into our payroll software. So we have the capability of just being able to pull that directly in so that we don't have to key anything from the nursing home. The highway department is using a software that is called RT Vision, and it's a public works version software. It's a web-based software. All of their staff are using that software. And basically, like the guys that are out there working, on the roads and stuff like that, when they punch in for the day, they select what piece of equipment that they're using, and let's say if they have like a plow truck, they'll identify like which wing that they might have on that plow truck or which plow that they have on there. If
Wow.
they maybe have a pickup truck and they're pulling a trailer, they'll identify what trailer that they have on there. And we use that all for our highway costing, that information for our highway costing reports that we have to do each year and turn into the DOT. And as they change equipment, they will basically punch in and out. They do that from their cell phones. And then at the end of each day, either the highway commissioner or his deputy go through and approve of everyone's timesheets. At the end of each pay period, we interface those time cards into our payroll software so that we don't have to do any manually keying of each individual's time. Now, currently, the other staff in the county, we are doing time cards or our timesheets on an Excel document, and they are printed off, signed by the supervisor, and either brought in person to the finance department or they're scanned and emailed to the finance department. We're actually in the process of setting up everyone else into the RT Vision software. It's an RT Vision Basic. It's not as complicated as what they have at the highway department because we don't need that. So everyone in our courthouse, in our social services, the health department, the sheriff's department will be using the time card basic software. And just like kind of how the highway department does it in Bloomfield, they will punch in and punch out every day. And then at the end of the pay period, the employee approves of their time card, the supervisor approves of their time card, and then we will import that information into our accounting software and process process the payroll, and hopefully that we'll be able to eliminate keying and reduce our payroll process from 5 days to, I'm hoping, at least 3 days, if not less than that. And we're hoping to launch that in early April.
It's a lot of people to get ready.
It is. We've been working on this for a couple of weeks. So we have our training the week of April 5th, and then at the end of that week, we plan to go live with the software. So hopefully everything will work out. I know we'll have some growing pains initially, but eventually we'll get there.
So do you see any other areas where technology would help you improve efficiency within the county for your financing?
We have talked about maybe changing some of our accounts payable process just to hopefully, improve some efficiencies, maybe reduce some paper, and be able to, if we go to a new accounting software, which has kind of been a little bit of the talk that we've had, to have a software that we could upload, scan our bills to, the vouchers to, and then not have to go pull something out of a filing cabinet drawer, that it would be right there that we could look up and work off of that information.
Okay. One final thing. So the county or the employees of Iowa County, did they get a pay increase adjustment this last year, or how does that process work for you guys?
So we, back in 2014, Iowa County did a wage compensation study with Carlson Dettman. And so all the employees were put into a classification. And then every year, our employee relations director contacts Carlson Dettman to get figures on what the market is going with, and we've done a market adjustment every year since then. One year we did split it. I actually have those numbers here. So the first full year, after the first full year, we did a 1.5% market adjustment. In 2017, we did 2.25 market adjustment. In 2018, we actually did, we split our adjustments. What we did was, as of January 1st of 2018, employees received a 2.5% increase. And then, let me make sure I'm telling you this right. No, in January 1st, they received a 2.25% increase. And then July 1st, we did a 2.5% increase. In 2019, we had a 2.5% market adjustment. In 2020, we had a 2.5%. And then in 2021, we did a 2%.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been incredibly helpful. We, as I don't know how much you know about our county. We're going through a transition of changing from administrator coordinator to a county administrator. And so transferring, finance and HR responsibilities from the clerk's office, who was our administrative coordinator, into the county administrator's office. So it's been a process that we're working through. So any information we can get has been really, really helpful. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. So with that, I think we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. So you are welcome to sign off if you're welcome to hang around if you want to too, but you are also welcome to sign off at any time.
Okay, I will go ahead and sign off. And I'd just like to say, if you have any questions in the future, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. We probably will take you up on that.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, item number 6, discussion with departments on administrative support staff. So I did ask the following department heads to join us today. I have Kathy Cooper from Land Conservation, Sheriff Jim Bindle, Roger Petrick from the Highway, Craig Sachs from Extension, Julie Keller in the Treasurer's Office, Sue Triggs from Register of Deeds, and Tom Rislow of Pine Valley. Tom, I spoke with extensively, and he is not going to be at the meeting today because we had of the conversation we had, which I will go over with you guys. And I believe Tracy Thorson has a conflicting meeting, so she emailed me some information, but also I believe Robin is here as well. So what I asked them today was I asked that they come today with not to try to have to defend the positions they have in their departments that are administrative assistant, secretarial, clerical type positions, but really to just talk about what capacity they may have to assist our county administrator with some duties, like, for example, answering the phone, taking messages, helping keep track of the calendar, and any other kind of administrative duties that could be done remotely, would not necessarily have to have a physical person come to the courthouse to his office, which is why I also, on Roger's suggestion, asked Barb to be here so that we could talk about whatever any technological limitations we might have in, like I know we have different phone systems, so whether things can be forwarded to other phones. So I just wanted to update the committee members on kind of what I asked of people when they to come today. So I think, why don't we just start? I mean, I'll just kind of look to see on my screen here. So Craig Sachs, you are on my screen first. So let's go ahead and talk to you. So, I know that there are 2 positions over there, and we've had many discussions about those positions during our budgetary process. We know how I'm not saying that anyone is not busy. That is not what my intention is here. What my intention is, is there any capacity for them to be able to answer the phone for the administrator, or to help him, get materials ready for meetings and things like that?
I'm not really sure how to answer, because they're on a regular basis, they're pretty busy, and as we've talked before, they're supporting the staff that are there now. Can adjustments be made? Possibly. I don't know. They've got a full workload as it stands. Can some things be shifted around? That would take some conversation, and I don't know how you deal with. You're right. We have a separate phone system. We're in a totally different building with a totally different phone system. We're not even networked on the computer system that you have, so there might be some challenges and hurdles there as well.
Okay, actually, at this point, Barb, do you have a second to update on what are the limitations as far as like phones being forwarded or files being shared, things like that?
Well, actually, we're really close to we could put them on our network. It's completely possible. We could put them on our phone system, completely possible. There's been discussion about that, but there's also been there are logistics to work out.
Is it money? Is it money as well? Like there would be an investment to be made, or they could be added with just basically labor on your part, probably?
I think that's correct.
Okay.
Labor on our part and then direction from you guys.
Okay.
So that's not, and we'd have to purchase the phones because that piece doesn't exist. And we just got a quote to move 2 different offices in the courthouse, and it was for an office their size, probably $1,500 for the phone system. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the one thing you'd have to purchase. Otherwise, the computer and the files, that's not a problem.
And just to echo what you're saying, Barb, I think this would be a good upgrade for us to be on the county phone system and the county network. So I'm not opposed to that. I think that could move, but we're not.
Right.
Is there some This is Bob. Is there some question, Barb, that this is a UW system, or is this really totally the extension completely part of the county? Do we have any logistics we have to deal with the UW?
Well, there is going to be some because those computers, to get them onto us, will have to, the extension agents aren't on our network. And that is the reality. The two employees, the secretaries, aren't an issue because they're county employees. And we would end up just putting them on our network. They would become county network computers. They already are. They're already maintained by us. But then they would truly integrate fully into the county network. Currently, they're hybrids, for lack of a better word. But we would more fully integrate them, which we can do without a problem. It'll put them behind our Barracuda web filter, which there was resistance on. I'm not gonna lie, that's the resistance.
So, okay. So, I mean, I think this is true of several positions within the county. So I'm just going to say it now. You know, that there have been times when positions have been talked about being cut during our budgetary process. And so, you know, obviously, if a position were to take on helping the county administrator, that would strengthen that position to make, you know, some positions less vulnerable. So I think that's something for everyone to keep in mind. Oh, hello. So, you know, obviously in an ideal world, we would hire a separate administrative assistant for the county administrator, and perhaps we will. But I think that the reason we wanted to have this conversation was to make sure that we don't have some capacity to get the administrator help sooner rather than later. So Mr. Sachs, I think, you know, I totally agree that they are probably very busy, but do you think answering the phones would be something that is doable?
They do that regularly. That's a key component of their job function right now. So sure, they could be answering the phone.
Okay. All right.
See, reason why they couldn't.
Yeah, that of all things is probably the least disruptive, I guess. I mean, it's still disruptive if you're in the middle of doing something else, answering the phone, you have to stop.
But that's a routine that they do on a regular basis. So answering the phone is just, it could be absorbed into the regular routine of the
Okay.
office.
All right. Thank you.
I will do whatever you feel is the right direction for the county. Just don't know how to quite picture it as it's moving forward. And
Well, I mean, I don't
yeah.
think any of us do. This is a work in progress. And, you know, and it probably will evolve greatly as we move through. So really, this was just for us to try to gather information about who we have out there that could potentially take up some of the tasks for the county administrator. To get anything off his plate would be, I think, at this point helpful, because he's just juggling a lot right now with no help, or almost no help.
I understand.
All right. So
if I could add one, I think this would be, well, my mouth is open, so I'll open it. Jenny, our support staff, does a great job. She's hearing impaired. So I know that, Sean, you asked if she would help take WebEx minutes for one of the meetings. That really panicked her, because since you wouldn't even know she's hearing impaired, but doing minutes on a WebEx really frightened her. So there are some limitations because of her disability that she may not be able to do.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. I really appreciate it. All right. So with that, why don't we move on to who's the next person I see on my screen here? I guess we'll go to Robin at HHS. So I do want to quickly just read a little bit of what Tracy sent to me. Sorry, I had it up, but I removed it. Because there's one point that I just wanted to make, and maybe she was planning on making that, but she as always, was, that they would like to be able to help, but that everyone is at capacity. The vaccine clinics and everything that's going on with the pandemic are incredibly time consuming. And the other point that she made that I think is really important for us to remember is that many of the staff are funded by state or federal funds that cover administrative costs. And if we were to pull them for county duties and not administrative HHS duties, that could mess with the funding they get for those positions. So with that, I guess, Robin, if you want to just, again, I don't want you to defend their positions as far as the reason they exist, but you
Yep,
want to.
no, I was really just going to go over what the email Tracy sent to, so you
Okay.
captured two of the
Yeah.
biggest points. But yeah, I'll just reiterate that the vaccine and the contact tracing, we have admin staff. Each person in admin right now is taking off usually once, or not taking off, but leaving our office once or twice a week to work at the contact tracing site as well, or with the testing, excuse me, the testing for COVID. And then staff are also leaving once a week to work the vaccine site for admin support. So things are definitely falling off the plate. And in my 2 years here, I think staff are way more at capacity than they've ever been. And we've got to do something about that soon here too. So it's definitely very tight and stressed with admin. The only other point she had to mention was just to briefly mention that we are providing some support to Clint right now. Angie is doing some with helping coordinate vacant positions and interviews. She's provided this assistance to Clint over the last year, but her time is limited. The support, I'll just read what she said. The support work, in addition to her PIO role, has required extra work. She's getting paid out right now some overtime that luckily we can capture with some funding sources, but she definitely is, the workload she's doing is in addition to her current job, and she's doing extra above and beyond. Praise her. So, but yeah, so the last point was that was absolutely correct, that our funding streams would have to be evaluated because we capture some of the overhead in federal funding based on how we have our position structured over here and supporting the different programs.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Roger from Highway, are you on?
Yes, I am. Melissa, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, so I have two office staff. One works 35 hours a week. Like I said before, I mean, I don't know how the phone transferring would work as far as taking calls. I don't know. I think on, excuse me, but with Clint, I don't know. I think you'd want to, whoever's taking his calls and producing agendas, I think they'd want to all do that. If you have one department doing one thing for Clint, another department doing something for him, I think things might get mixed up.
Potentially. Barb, can you quickly just answer his question about the phone system? Are they on the same phone system, different phone system?
They're not currently on the same one. They're on a different one, but they could easily be put onto this one. I mean, they are completely technologically set up to do it, except for we'd have to purchase the actual handsets.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So Roger, are you saying that your staff does have, I mean, obviously everyone is busy. I'm asking if it can be added to their pile, is, the question.
Right. I mean, if we were to move one of the staff to 40 hours, she would be very good at getting meeting agendas put together, sent out. She'd be very good at that. I guess I don't know what else Clint needs for sure. What else he's looking at for support.
Right.
Um,
And yeah, I think getting meeting materials together, getting it sent out to people, answering phones, emails. Clint, you could certainly chime in here anywhere, anytime too.
That's kind of a big time gobbler is minutes, preparing agenda items, communications in regards to setting up the different summary sheets. That's a part of it, as well as when we get into every project kind of has its own pieces to it, whether it's a Tri-County airport or a radio tower project or whatever the project is, to help manage and set up meetings and send out doodle polls to figure out what time members might be able to come together for meetings. Those are kind of the big time gobbling type of activities.
All
is
right,
that something, pardon me, but Clint, is that something that you maybe want to come in and we could sit down and discuss with my office staff?
Yeah, certainly we're certainly willing to sit down and see if there's a solution there.
Roger, this is Bob. So you said you have two staff, one at 35. I'm presuming the other one is full-time then?
Correct.
Okay. And they work together in the same office. They're sharing the resources there at this point?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think, yeah, I mean, so that will be a conversation. I don't expect to like have a solution necessarily as we come out of this today, but really just to know where to have the conversation. So thank you. And I'm sure we will definitely follow up with you and your staff.
Chair Luck, I have a question for Robin, if I can interject a question.
Sure.
Thank you. So Robin, you have the front reception office staff as you walk into the building.
Correct.
You got a couple employees there normally full-time all the time?
2. Yep.
Okay. So are they time-wise? I know everybody's busy. I'm not trying to say they're not. Answering phones, are they or secretary style? Are they just answering phones? What are some of the things is that someone that those two could help out in something like this?
Those 2 are doing a lot more in addition to just answering the front. One staff is doing all of our CCS, our Comprehensive Community Services Program, which is our largest program here. She's doing all the billing on top of that. So we're even having to find ways to have some other staff come up front and relieve her just so she can come back and sit in a quiet office and get her other duties done as well. Our other person does all of the new client entry into the system. She's doing all the scanning of every single document that comes into our office for our economic support unit. And I guess I wish, I'm kind of going to hold off on answering the rest of your question because as Angie's a supervisor, she can probably even speak better to the additional duties that they do. And if there's, she's way more in tune with the front desk than me, that if there's room for help at all. At this point, I know they're both stretched to their limit from what I can see, but I don't directly oversee the front desk. So
are they both full-time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Roger, that one employee, would they be, by bumping the hours up to 40, are they currently full-time at 35 and receiving benefits, or would that change other than just the 5 hours? And would they be interested in that?
I can have the discussion with her. So she's at reduced benefits because she's at the 35. Once she increases the 40, then the benefits would increase as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Kathy Cooper from Land Conservation. I saw you on here earlier. Are you on?
Yeah, just give me a minute to get my computer up. Okay, as far as the phones, it'd be kind of difficult for us, Tammy, to answer the phones because we're part of the federal phone system. I'm not sure if a phone call came in, where it would end up. You know, if it'd end up in the area office, field office, farm service agency, or our office. That would be, if we were located, if we when we move and whenever that happens, that would be a different issue. I mean, it'd be a lot easier for that to happen. As far as the other, I know Sean had asked about Tammy doing some WebEx on one of the meetings. We've not tried that. She, we at that point we said no because of issues. Doesn't mean we can't do something like that, but like as far as getting meeting notices out, the agendas and stuff, Tammy does that for land conservation and parks. I don't think that would be, as long as she has who to send them to and what the things are, I don't think that'd be a difficult thing. We need the letterhead and all that. We do have to be careful with our system, kind of like Robin talked about. When I apply for the joint grant allocation, we only get credit. We can only apply for the grant for the hours worked under land conservation duties. So like 10% of her time is we put down as parks. We can't count that, so it's like she's at 90% when we request the funds for the grant. So we have to watch that. Would probably have to fall within that 10% time, but meetings, she could help with that at this point. If and when we leave where we're currently at and get to a different location, then I think the answering of the phones would be a different situation. I think it'd be a lot easier, but right now I think it'd be very difficult. I'm not sure where the phone call would end up.
Barb, do you have any comments on that? Are you familiar at all with their being, you're tied with like yes or something, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're tied with the federal system, yes.
Yeah, they're not able to at all. They're locked down. There's no possibility there.
Yeah. And our problem is the reason we moved our phone line into their system was it was going to cost us a lot of money, the county, to put in new phone lines, and I should say new phone line, but phone lines to our desks so we could have the that was going to be the issue.
Okay.
So that's why we didn't do that.
All right. Robin, do you have your hand up?
I had one additional comment that I thought that would be important to make too, is with our front desk, it rings to the front two people, and at any given time we could have more than 2 calls coming in. And so we set it up here to ring to our ADRC front desk as well. And we just had an issue with that last week, and Roxanne, who's the manager of the ADRC, tracks all the calls, and she tracked that the ADRC front desk took 55 calls, I believe it was, in a week on top of what our front desk was taking. So that just kind of speaks to the volume that quite a few times the calls are so heavy that it rings to another desk. So I guess that was an important piece of information to share. Not that I don't want to sound like I'm definitely supportive, but that just gives an idea of the volume of calls we get.
With the system that we have, we can track, we have call accounting, so we can turn that on so we can track the exact number of calls that are going to what desk, if that's helpful, Melissa. So we could see where the volume of calls are and number and.
Okay. Robin, I do remember from our last conversation as well that those 2 positions at the front desk were talked about as financial positions as well. I mean, they have financial titles, and they're entering financial, at least one of those, or if not 2 of those positions were.
Yep, one of them reports directly to me, the one that does the CCS billing, and the other one is administrative. It still does some financial duties, but does not have that title.
Right. All right. So with that, I guess I'll briefly describe. So I talked with Tom Rislow at Pine Valley, and they amazingly, I was surprised, only have one title of it that has an administrative specialist, administrative assistant, clerical type of title. I mean, it's a very large organization, so I was surprised that they really only have one. And so we did have a long conversation about what that person is doing, and it did not seem even remotely possible to me that person could take on anything else. So So that's why I didn't ask him to come to this meeting. So with that, Julie Keller, are you our treasurer? Are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi. As far as the deputy treasurer, that position does have a full workload. We had asked for 40 hours some time ago so that we could keep up with the workload. I certainly would lend a helping hand in emergency, or if something comes up, I'm always willing to help. But to designate so many hours a day, I don't think that would be a possibility. And I think, as others have said too, you know, you'll probably want to pick one person to do these duties and not divide them up between departments. So, I mean, my opinion, I think, you know, you're going to want to have someone so many hours a day or so many hours a week, you know, and not, you know, have several people. And just in my observation of being adjoining office with the administrator, his phone rings a lot. So there's a lot of phone calls. So, you know, I don't think, you know, I think that's a big job right there. And, you know, besides getting, you know, other things ready, paperwork ready and things like that. So that's just my opinion.
Right. And what about if the position was increased to 35 or to 40 hours from 35?
We are at 40 hours.
Oh, you are at 40. Okay, I was thinking you were at 35 still. Okay.
Yeah. No, we had gotten the increase.
All right. All right, thank you. And
Okay.
Sue Triggs, about the Register of Deeds, our Register of Deeds, are you on the call?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've been listening to all these comments, and as far as answering the phone, we only have one line coming into our office. So I guess my concern would be people trying to reach us or trying to get a hold of the county administrator. There might, you know, they might not be able to get a hold of either one of us right away if the line's busy for one or the other's calls. Meeting notices and agendas, I mean, we could help with that. I don't want to commit to like so many hours a day because sometimes there might only be one of us in the office because we are only a two-person office with a full agenda. But and then it also said other duties, and I thought maybe if there was a list of other, you know, what everything is he needs help with, we could, you know, let him know if there's something else we can help with. But I'm not opposed to helping. I'm not quite sure in what capacity yet. If you can figure it out, that's we'd be glad
Okay.
to help him.
Yeah, I mean, we're like I said in the beginning, I don't think any of us have a real complete clear idea of how this would work. This is really just kind of information gathering to see where we can have some further conversations. So, all right, thank you. Sheriff Bindle, I think you're the last. Did you have something, Barb, that you needed?
I was just gonna reassure Sue, if we changed it so that she was gonna someone in their department would be answering phones for Clinton, we would put them onto the new phone system, which would give them 44 phone lines. It wouldn't be that their phone line wouldn't be answered. It would actually make them have more available to them.
Okay.
So that wouldn't be a problem.
All right. All right, Sheriff Bindle. Saving the
Well,
best.
I was hopeful that somebody would say that they knew how to type so that I could get them in there to help us. I have to tell you, Melissa, both of my people, Susan is, when she types complaints up, there's a time restraint that we have to get this information over to the district attorney. So time is always a factor. And she's behind, of course, because we don't have a casual typing. So when somebody comes in and they go, well, we need a copy of this report, we don't have it typed yet. So for Susan to have, I cannot tie her up at this point. Amber is so busy with the jail stuff, the ACADA stuff, all the training that we do. She takes care of payroll. I just do not see how either one of them could even answer a telephone. Now, if you could find a person that could type, we have a telephone setting next there that could help Susan type. And I'd love to have that as well. But for us to take phone calls, we're getting phone calls all the time for paperwork, civil service, need to talk to a deputy. I just don't see where it's going to work.
Well, thank you for coming and talking to us today. All right. Does anyone...
But I would still take that typist.
Okay. One problem at a time. One problem at a time. Do any of the committee members have any questions for the department heads that are present? Any further questions for them before we move on to the next agenda item?
I have a question for the sheriff. Melissa.
Yeah.
Why don't deputies type out their own complaints?
Generally, what they're doing, I guess I need to ask who's asking the question.
Marty Brewer.
Marty, that's a good question, but what happens is they have to enter it into the system. So the deputies are dictating their reports. They give them over to Susan, as well as then she types it up, puts it into the system, as well as the photos. And the deputies are able to continue on with the other complaints that they have.
Does that answer your question, Marty? Kind of. Oh, you muted yourself.
Kinda, whatever.
Okay. All right. So thank you, all of the department heads that took the time to come today. I really appreciate it. I think the more we have these conversations, the better understanding we all have of what's going on in all of our different departments. So thank you. All right. So item number 7, further review of statewide county clerk staffing levels, discussion and possible action on county clerk deputy position. So what I decided to do was I actually emailed every single clerk in the state and asked them how many deputies they have. And that was the question I asked. How many deputies do you have? And I got answers back from a surprising number of them, almost all of them, which I was very happy. They were very, very willing to share information. So, and I know I had done the other spreadsheet that I had was when I had just looked at the websites and just tried to determine from their websites how many staff members they have. But I thought it was worth taking the time to just try to actually hear from every single one of them. So, to me, there was 2 take-home messages. One is that it became clear to me that counties are sharing staff. It's not uncommon for counties to share staff between departments, which I was a little surprised by, just given the logistics of sharing staff. But quite a few of them do share, and even mentioned sharing with the administrator's office in a couple instances as well. So that was one thing that I sort of took away from this list. And then the other is that there's a huge variation in the number of deputies required in each county. And it doesn't necessarily correspond to their population. It doesn't necessarily correspond to anything that I can figure out. Many of the ones that had multiple deputies specifically talked about the fact that they do passports in their office. So I don't know, passports must take up a lot of time or something, because they specifically mentioned that. And I should have put that in the notes, and I didn't put that in the notes of how many of them mentioned passports.
It's also a revenue stream for them.
Is that what it is? Okay. Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't realize that that was a thing. That, I mean, I went to the post office when I got my passport. So, so anyway, so when I was communicating with the Iowa County Finance Director and realized that they have essentially they have the same setup that we have right now, wherein their accounts payable specialist is essentially the deputy county clerk in the clerk's office. Once I realized that that was something that people have been doing and it seems to work, that was how I came to the conclusion of just seeing if that's perhaps the way we want to keep it for now. Like if that's, I'm not saying that that's a forever solution, but that, you know, that since it's already in place and it seems to be working okay, if that's the route we want to take for the allocation of a position for the deputy or for the clerk. So, so I did write up, a potential motion that we could make today, which I'll just read it because I think I might add one little thing at the end of it. But so motion to recommend to Finance and Personnel Committee that the position of Accounts Payable Specialist currently under the supervision of the county clerk and filled by Ms. Amy Lewis remain in that office indefinitely. This is a position allocated to the county clerk that can be deputized if he desires. The county administrator should work with the county clerk to rewrite the job description to include all accounts payable specialist duties, as well as any additional deputy clerk duties and title as desired by the clerk. And then I think we could potentially add a sentence after that that says county administrator will review this position with the county clerk in some time frame, 6 months, a year, to evaluate how well the arrangement is working and report to to Finance and Personnel. So I guess with that, I would open it up to the rest of the committee to comment on both the spreadsheets and your thoughts on the Iowa County Financial Director's comments on how that arrangement is working for their county. So I'm going to stop talking now and let you guys.
Okay, so this is Bob. So the Iowa County thing I think is very interesting. I think, like you mentioned in your spreadsheet, there's so many variations of how people do different jobs in the county and how they're titled in different counties. So I think it's probably one of the closer ones to what our model is. In looking at the recommendation and action language, I would recommend, first of all, that I think it's the third sentence down, that if he desires, I think it should be if they desire, because if this is a language that's going to go through, it should be gender neutral. We don't know who's going to be where and in what position. That's a minor thing. I would ask, if I see Amy Lewis is on, if Amy has any comments about this, I'd be interested in hearing those.
Amy, are you? I know I saw you on earlier.
And or Tammy, if they're interested in
making
comments.
I know she was having trouble unmuting at one point the last time she was on. I don't know, Clint, are you in the same vicinity as Amy?
Amy's not in the office today. She's connected.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Well, she's responded by email before, so I'd be interested in hearing her thoughts and comments on that if she'd be interested. I think this is I don't think this is the solution. I think this is the direction towards the solution. I think this is a good starting place to be moving forward with.
All right, thank you. Other committee members?
Madam Chair? Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I know Amy isn't in this discussion, but I know from the last time we heard from her, she feels that her current position is full-time, and it was her recommendation that it go with the other finance people. So I think, speaking for, well, trying to say what I think she'd say, she would say, no, this job's got to go with finance. However, then that brings us back to our main point of discussion here, and that is, what do we do about the deputy clerk position, which to me is a situation that we have to solve, if not immediately, close to it by next Tuesday, maybe. We're drifting along without a deputy clerk. Should our clerk, for any reason, be absent from the county office, then we don't have a county clerk. And I know the statute says the county clerk deserves a deputy. It does not say that it has to be a full-time deputy. I've searched that statute, and I can't see any place that says that it has to be full-time, unless you interpret by definition, well, it's got to be full-time because the clerk is full-time. But I see that. It was interesting to me, Melissa, in your survey. I didn't get a chance to read every response, but a lot of them said, well, I close down the office once in a while because I don't have 100% backup. So I guess it's not unheard of. All right. I don't want Richland County to become one of those counties, though, that we hang the sign up, gone fishing or something. Victor would never go fishing. I'm not saying that. It's just, it would seem that if I go to Langlade County and I have a problem, I want to find someone in that office, either the clerk or a deputy. So this is one of my typical long rambling responses that it is my opinion, and I'll support your motion, Melissa, that you've suggested, but it is my opinion that this is only a short-term solution, and that we need to have probably a full-time deputy in the clerk's office.
Thank you. One of the things that I was thinking was that, as we move through this next budget process, I think we'll have a lot better idea of where we stand financially as far as the idea of creating another position. So I was thinking in my mind that this because we do need him to be able to deputize somebody. So I agree. I don't know that this is a permanent solution, or maybe it is. I did ask Amy how she felt about remaining in that, remaining in her current position as titled under the deputy or under the clerk. And, she agreed that it's not ideal, but it's okay, was the response I got. And this was a month ago or 6 weeks ago. So it was a while ago. Clint, would you like to comment on how it's going, having that position still, the accounts payable specialist position as it is right now?
Tammy and Josh, I feel, have been able to have the same access to Amy as they would have before reconfiguration. So from what I see from my view, she's able to process the accounts payables. The aspect of the additional duties that are coming over from deputy, I don't think I could probably speak wisely on those. But in regards to being able to process account payables, it seems like things are still flowing.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Turk, did you have a comment?
I was just going to agree with Supervisor Frank that I certainly don't think this is the permanent solution, but it is a step in a direction and something we need to do now. Echoing Supervisor Brewer's comments that this needs to be dealt with.
All right, so is someone ready to make the motion then?
Bob will make that motion.
And the only thing you wanted to change was the he to they?
Correct. And then you said you had your addition that you wanted on there also.
Right. I was thinking that putting on some kind of timeline for review is good, just because it keeps us accountable to make sure that we look at this again to make sure it's still working and is appropriate, so I'm thinking the 6-month one might be the better option to review this in 6 months.
So 6 months puts us where in the budget sequence? I think maybe it should be maybe shorter than that if we have to hit the budget sequence correctly. 6 months puts us out to
That's true.
October. I think we should be a little earlier than that.
Clint, when do you think would be a good time to review whether this is going to work or not?
Operational budget will be end of July releasing. August, September will be heavy in discussions on it and sealing things up early part of October. So I would say an August or September timeframe is probably most appropriate.
September 6 months, so counting April. So yeah, okay.
Right. So Clint, for your records, the upper paragraph, the only thing changed is he to they in that third sentence or second sentence. And then this would be the sentence to add at the end. Then the county administrator will review this position with the county clerk in 6 months to evaluate how well the arrangement is working and report to finance and personnel. So that's the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. The motion carries. And obviously we can have further discussions about this in finance as well. All right, so I guess one other thing, so in item number 6, discussion of departments of administrative support staff, I guess, where do we want to go from here? Do we as a committee feel we need to, I mean, part of me was like, I think I'll bring the people in the room together to talk about what kind of capacity there is. Do we want to turn it over to the administrator to look at and determine how he sees it best fit in, or do we want to continue to try to identify that, or do we want to talk about creating a position? What is the committee's thoughts at this point?
Chair Luck, my thoughts are that so first of all, does this committee have any authority, or do we refer everything back to personnel and finance? Is that my understanding? We refer everything to finance and then to the county board. So we're technically a subcommittee then of
we are.
that. So okay, thank you. So my recommendations then would be I would encourage Administrator Langrick to make contact and work with Roger on and come up with what the costs are going to be for adding that extra 5 hours onto that position at the highway department. I'd be curious to see what those costs involve. I think there's a possibility there, but I think we all want to be on board as to what that totally involves. My other, and I guess that's just a recommendation because we can't make that decision. I would encourage to turn that over to Administrator Langrick for that, and get back to us, I guess.
Yeah, on that note, I think any positions that end up in our budget as being talked about as potentially being cut. So I know that last year there was some struggle with the Register of Deeds deputy funding that position. So any of and obviously the extension positions have the last 2 budget cycles that ever since I've been on the board, those positions have come up every year. So I mean, those positions, I think that they would be ideally set, because that if we're concerned that they don't have enough to do that, we're cutting them, or for whatever reason we're cutting them. This having them have county administrator assistant duties would strengthen those positions. So, because I don't,
Good. I agree. I think in the short term haul here to get the assistants helped out in that office, the work going through highway might be a temporary solution just to get the ball rolling until we hit budget where we can make those clear decisions, and it may have just a minor impact.
right. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe your solution is in the Register of Deeds office, and I've felt that even since budget time. I do not want to see Sue lose her deputy, and I think this would be an ideal solution. That job, like many of these administrative assistant jobs, deputy jobs, whatever you want to call them, they're busy 125%. Some days, some weeks, other days and weeks, maybe that drops down to 75 or even 65%. So you staff these things, for the long haul. And we looked at that job very critically, and it was on the chopping block to remove that position. And Sue pointed out, well, by statute, she gets a deputy, and I agree with her there. I think that is where we have some room, very honestly. So I haven't talked to Clint about this recently, so I don't know where he wants to go from here. But I would even support action today to explore that and get the phone straightened out so they can be answered.
Supervisor Turk, did you have any thoughts?
I think that we need to come up with some recommendations, and I think timing it with the budget cycle is probably the most opportune way to do that. So the way we have the setup of our temporary arrangement with the review coming during the budget cycle, I think is good. And having in mind some of the things, as Supervisor Brewer has pointed out, are good possibilities to keep in mind. Whether that's where we wind up with our final answer or not, I don't know yet at this point. But between now and the budget time, we can be having further conversations, and Director Langrick can do further research and get more info to personnel and finance, so that in the budget process we can try to find that more permanent solution.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
And I'll speak to the chairman I will not speak to the other member. Madam Chair, we're asking Clinton Langrick, who already is pushed for time, to come up with more recommendations and reviews. So this is an immediate need that he has. Thank you.
So what I was going to say is I'm wondering if we could, well, why don't we ask Mr. Langrick? What I is, I think we got you a lot of information today, and we have the department heads with the understanding that we are looking for them to cooperate in any way they can to help the administrator. So does that set you up to be able to have some conversations about being able to pass off duties, or would you like us to formally pursue that?
No, I think at this point there's several pieces to work with. I can reach out with Roger and see how things go with piloting, admin support, with trying to help establish with one or several of the meetings, as well as helping with minutes and that thing, to see how it works. My concerns kind of going through it is having somebody that is in a temporary role. It will kind of create challenges, as they're going to be wearing kind of two different hats and not fully immersed in everything that's going on here on a steady day-to-day. And kind of looking down the road is, some of it was kind of felt projected today, and talking with Jamie is an understanding that underneath my office here, kind of the expectations of administrative duties, of financial officer duties, of human resource director type of duties kind of all kind of land. And so some of the pieces are a little bit bigger than I think anybody's going to be able to kind of wrangle with in a 5-hour capacity on a given week. I'm thinking of projects like trying to put together work groups to assess our health insurance benefits and plans like that, to helping facilitate and kind of taking a champion kind of role on coordinating for a Tri-County Airport project with the improvements there to help put those pieces together. Some of those things I don't think it's going to be kind of fair to try to see if we can get help from departments. There are different pieces, of course, that were also talked about today. I've been most thankful to Tracy and Health and Human Services for the times that Angie has been able to help and support. I will probably be looking to tap into her expertise and her maneuverability and potentially helping us coordinate for the recruitment of a corporation counsel. But again, projects like that, it would be hard, I think, for someone that's, unless you're kind of geared into the constant recruiting process, it would take a significant amount of time. But again, there's bits and pieces like that the more that can be done off of the plate here, it allows to try to balance and juggle the rest. So kind of a long and drawn out answer, and I think I hit on a couple different points, but I hope that I was kind of clear enough on saying that we'll try to pilot where we can.
What are your thoughts on Marty's comment on, what if you potentially had a 25 or 50% person in the Register of Deeds office?
That'd be a conversation to have with Sue to understand where she stands on that. But again, any type of support that is there and is more immersed in it is going to be of more efficiency, I feel.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Sue Triggs, and I just want to make a comment. Last year, we took in over $460,000 in this office. We collected over $102,000 more in fees than we did the year before. And we made almost $26,000 over our expenses. So I don't think it's fair that people think we don't do anything in this office and that we just have all kinds of free time. We are always busy and have projects to do and back projects. I don't mind helping Clint. I told him that, and I told you people that. But I just don't think it's fair that, you're always putting us on a chopping block because we are working in here.
Thank you, Sue. These conversations are always really tricky and difficult. We recognize that your office does a lot of work. We're just trying to balance all these different pieces to try to figure out what we can make work. And the budget process is always a difficult time. So I think my comments were coming from the fact that position has been talked about as far as funding the last couple years. So that's where I was coming from.
I guess when we talk about like a certain percentage of it, what happens if one of us isn't here? Like when you say 25% of it going, and I will be, happy to help Frank out. And I think that's a conversation he and I will have to have, but to put a certain amount of time on that, it's in the statutes that, if the Register of Deeds is absent, that the deputy is to take responsibility.
Right.
There's not another Register of Deeds in the state that doesn't have a full-time deputy. But like I said, there's probably not a lot of offices that can say that they're bringing in money and paying their way.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the additional information. And I think this is an ongoing conversation that we will be having, and there's absolutely nothing set in stone with any of these. We're just throwing ideas out there. All right. So I guess, Mr. Langrick, what I wasn't clear on is, I think what you were saying was that you have enough information. You've gotten what you need to know. and that you'd like to talk and see what you can work out with these departments? Or you would like us to do more formal action?
No, at this point, I'll plan on reaching out and seeing what we can do and seeing what we could pilot before we were to make further recommendation or further report.
Okay. I mean, I would assume that if you were running into roadblocks or issues and needed our support, that you would let us know that. Okay. All right. So then item number 8, proposed future agenda items. I guess the last piece that I feel that we as a committee have not addressed that we were tasked with is looking at all of our committee structure, our rules of the board, our resolutions, ordinances, all of those things to make sure that we have updated all of our paperwork to the county administrator form of administration. And so I was hoping to sit down potentially with Clint and I think anyone else who would like to help kind of just plow through all those documents and try to get all of those changes identified so that we can stop having these situations where one document says one thing and another document conflicts it. And so we end up doing twice the work because all our documents aren't updated. So that's what I have for a future agenda item. I didn't know if anyone else, is there anyone else that the committee would like to hear from? Anything further that we feel we need to be addressing in this committee?
Yeah, I have a couple of suggestions. With the recent resignation of corporate counsel, there is I'm not sure how the agenda item would be directed, but is there funding there that is going to be unused that could help us with the administrator's position and funding for that? Is that a discussion we can have here, or should that be directly to finance is one item? Tech solutions, we just talked about RT Visions. Is that something that in part of the transition we should look at to help reduce workloads? And as part of this transition, if we're going to do it, what tech things can we do to help this transition and reduce some of the work and labor? Those are my two thoughts.
Highway does use New Vision already. Just as
We
a
can't
side note.
just remember we can't discuss future items.
Correct.
So okay, those are great. Thank you. Was there anything else? Supervisor Turk or Brewer, did you guys want to add anything else?
Well, the last agenda item we discussed has to be continued, obviously, so. Please.
The deputy
That's
clerk?
for the
The administrative support staff. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it probably would be good if Administrator Langer just would keep us in the loop as far as how his conversations are going with determining what help is out there in the immediate future, so that while we go through the budget process and determine if we can hire an actual position. All right. So with that, we'll go to adjournment. Do we want to try and set a date for the next meeting right now?
I think you'll have to do the availability again, Melissa.
Okay. So just as an FYI, Ingrid teaches every morning. And so she is not available until about 11 o'clock any day of the week, which is why I ended up having to schedule this one without her. So just when you're responding to me, if you guys can keep that in mind. I might schedule some, I mean, is 11, do we want to stick with because I know you have to leave for the bus, Marty, and so is 11 okay? Or do we want to do 12:30 to avoid any kind of conflict with lunch hour for staff?
11 works with me.
Melissa, I don't have to leave for bus until 2:45, so I'm good most of the afternoon.
Okay.
11:30 is fine with me. If I'm not sure when Ingrid gets done and gets home. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Supervisor Turk,
It depends on the day.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Well, I will send out another a request to come up with a day. Do we want to meet? So we are done as of June 1st, I think, or is it June 30th? June 1st? I think it's June 1st.
Can't remember.
So, yeah. Do we want to meet in 2 weeks or do we want to go a month this time? I mean, I think I'm going to need a little time to get through all those documents.
I would say 2 weeks. If you don't get through all the documents, that's going to be a transition period process anyway. I would say the next 2 weeks, we need to get some help here, and I think we have some options. If we don't want to address them, we're not doing anybody any good.
Okay, so I'll shoot for 2 weeks from now. So I don't even know what month would be. That would be the week of the last week in March, that 29th, in there somewhere.
Sure.
Okay, all right. That sounds good. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion. This is
I'll
Bob.
second.
All right, motion by Frank, second by Brewer. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
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 opposed. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.